I think it's fascinating that this development is happening and the requirements for sewage treatment and so forth are massive. Ken and I were going back and forth about the numbers during the playing of the video. 1 million cubic meters of water per day supplied is roughly, with recycling, could support about 2 million people. So that's pretty awesome. You have to think about all that sewage, right? And what happens to all that? It's much, much easier to do something like this from scratch. Of course, they have lots of money to work with than it is to rehabilitate our existing infrastructure. That's always been the problem. Africa went to cell phones immediately without landlines because they didn't need it. That's a tremendous amount of infrastructure that was just bypassed. Meanwhile, we are struggling to deal with our legacy infrastructure. Now, the other problem is this. Saudi Arabia is going to put a couple $1 trillion into this. Are we going to do something like that over here in America? That's a really good question to ask. And I'm not going to try and answer it in this briefing. Welcome, everyone, to the briefing of the 18th of January. And I'm seeing a lot of happy people. And Gene Tully, good evening, everyone. Yes, indeed. Water the Blue Gold, Thursday, January 18th, briefing number 245. Water is the people's asset. And by the way, we have a new profile of the company that on the fly, I'm going to show it to you. I just realized that we went ahead and posted that today. It's not in the show, so here it is. So if you go to OriginClear and under the presentations and so forth, we have here our new one-pager. We've cleaned things up. We're basically reflecting the new way, which is the new scene, shall we say, where we've combined 3 units to achieve a $32 million valuation in a pending merger. And so we've kind of modernized this whole thing, and I think it looks nice and clean. Key facts, of course, are that modular water revenues grew more than 5x, and progressive water treatment more than 3x. So that has driven, really, we would not be doing this whole merger thing and so forth if those units had not performed in such a stellar way in 2022 and maintaining momentum in 2023 and 2024. So that's what's exciting about all of this. So getting back on script here. All right. Usual safe harbor statement and investment disclaimer. This week's news. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. Fed has begun cutting interest rates, but here's what's interesting. I tell it in the story here. Let's go ahead and you all heard about the rate cut, and what does that mean? Well, the problem is that every time the Fed started cutting rates, unemployment rate spiked about 3 months later. Historically speaking, the first cut comes 3 months before the unemployment rate begins to spike. On average, the unemployment rate rises to 7.5% in a Fed rate cut cycle. Fed thinks it's only going to go to 4.1%. We shall see. But history says a soft landing is unlikely. That's where we're at with the state of the economy. And as you can see, it really favors a new stable asset like water. And then the next piece of news, lots of gold accumulation. Now, are we crazy or what? Here's this huge amount of 225 tons of gold added in 2023. I'm not seeing it in the price of gold ETFs, gold mining companies. It's a mystery to me. I cannot figure out what's up with gold. This is the problem with these mature assets, gold, oil. Look at Bitcoin, for example. Now, Bitcoin is doing really well. I love Bitcoins. I'm not going to tell you it's bad, but it gets constantly manipulated, right? So the problem with mature assets is that they are being played by some very sophisticated people. And because water benefits from having been relatively invisible for all this time, we are building a major investable asset without a lot of manipulation going on. And water itself benefits from just a steady rise in demand. And so it's a very stable commodity, which is why I love being in this space. For a long time, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing in water? Because no, I could not get any press. And now, first of all, as you'll see, there's some press about it's getting coverage, big time. But also, it is a Goldilocks asset class, not too hot, not too cold. In other words, it's not too early because it's, the government monopoly is breaking up, creating investing opportunities, and as we've been doing, setting up, but not too late, so it's not being quite as manipulated. So this is a great time to really build a future in a really interesting new asset. All right, layoffs, but here's what's going on. Here's something interesting. A lot of layoffs happening of highly paid professionals. Here's Ernst& Young. The reason why they're doing it is, hey, 130 people, you just saved $130 million just like that. Well, unfortunately, these people are the locomotives of higher end real estate and investment and so forth. The good news is that industry is rehiring because there's reshoring going on of industry. It's happening right now. And so there's going to be a wave of new, highly efficient factories that need a certain amount of workers, but also that need their own built-in resources, energy and water. So again, a really important thing. This one actually went viral. Check this out. Sure enough, our administration is saying we're stronger economically than we have been in history. Well, inflation is ridiculous. Rent, electricity, used cars, groceries, way up. I'm blown away every time I go to the grocery store. I get 3 items and it's $100. It's ridiculous. Again, stable investment asset, water. Oh, that one got some coverage. It was pretty cool. And this was an article, Mexico, this particular set of predictions. There were 17 predictions for Mexico 2024. The first one out of the 17 was the nearshoring boom will continue to accelerate and Mexico will receive a record amount of foreign direct investment. Reshoring, nearshoring, almost synonymous, will require significant energy and water management. So that's a beautiful thing, actually. All right. Now, this is crazy. Europe is EU, not Europe, the continent. EU, the combination of countries, is losing, because remember that Europe, the continent, includes Russia all the way to the Ural Mountains, as I learned as a school boy in France, that Europe goes all the way to the Ural Mountains. But EU itself is that subset. They think of themselves as a continent, but they're actually a subset. They're losing 1 million working age people per year. Now, and this commissioner is saying, without immigration, we'll die of hunger. Well, guys, make up your mind. We keep hearing about how there's too many people. We got to reduce population. We got to birth control with this, that, and the other thing. And so then countries like Italy go ahead and stop having babies, and now that's a problem. Well, I firmly believe that population needs to grow, but it's going to be resolved. There is Europe, I can't speak for where Europe's going, but in America, for example, we have net increase of people. Now, it's not how we like it. I'm not going to say it's being done well. That's not my point. But we are gaining human beings, and I think that's essential. But what that does for our job is it creates stresses. A lot of these people are moving into areas that are under-equipped for water management. And after all, if you don't have good water, you start getting all kinds of problems, disease, and both bacterial type and viral diseases, as well as cancers from toxins and so forth. So you got to have good water. But EU, very interesting situation there. Now, Jamie Dimon was up on Fox, and he told us about the various money being spent for this, that, and the other thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but I think very little of this is actually hitting the bottom line. The infrastructure plan, the American Rescue Plan, et cetera. These are huge amounts of money. Now, granted, a lot of this, the early stuff, American Rescue Plan, that was, probably justified for COVID and so forth. But for example, that infrastructure plan is moving very, very slowly. So, well, if you live in the Washington, D.C. area, you're doing very, very well. So, but the problem is that $5.8 trillion worth of spending is not great for the US dollar. Okay, interesting thing that just came across my desk is like the environmental services industry is being hit hard with attacks. 61,000% increase in denial of service, distributed denial of service. That means denial attacks from thousands of places, tens of thousands of places at once. And they just jam everything up. And why the environmental services industry, I don't know, but that's who is getting hit for some stupid reason. I think because it's a relatively new industry and growing fast, and perhaps that's why. Anyway, okay, massive money printing. What's going on here? Well, my friends over at Geopolitics and Empire, Hervoye Morik, a wonderful person who I was on his TNT radio show, and I was also on his podcast. The easiest way to get to it is through Telegram. Look up Geopolitics and Empire. I was on that podcast, and I've just been reinvited for March, and we're going to have a fun time on TNT Radio again. But let's take a look at what Hervoye forwarded from delacalle.com. 2023 was not restrictive. It was restrictive for small and medium enterprises and families, not for governments. Government spent like crazy people. And now government will continue to do this. In fact, deficits are going to surprise negatively again, of course. More taxes, lower potential growth, disguised with a new set of liquidity. So more quantitative easing. 2024 is just going to gush money. What does this mean for savers? Your US dollars will be worth less. Real wages continue to show poor growth. After-tax disposable income will decline. Find alternative reserves of value from gold to Bitcoin, etc. And that's where, of course, we think that water is a great place to go. Get a good preferred position in now. Peter St. Owen, who I listen to a lot, he keeps it short and sweet. He says inflation isn't dead, it is merely resting. He predicts a replay of the 70s show, inflation, recession, more joblessness. So when you get inflation and recession and loss of jobs, that means people can't afford, basic, all of a sudden they're certainly not traveling, right? All kinds of things stop happening. All right. Now there's a new California Forever city being built. $800 million has been spent to buy up farmland. This is what it looks like. This is between San Francisco and Sacramento. It's a big empty space. Well, why is it empty? Well, there's a good reason it's empty, because protections were put in place in 1984 to keep it from being turned into cities like this. But I'm guessing that anybody who spends $800 million has already figured out how to get the approval for this project. Now, it's true apparently there's more affordable housing needed. I don't believe that California Forever is going to be truly affordable, but hey, what can I say? But one thing is for sure is that it's already has a strained water supply. This is California after all. And so they haven't really figured out the water side of things. Okay, I see there's been some great comments. So Ray Laban says, great to be here. Thank you, Ray. China's trying to build the basis for the yuan to be an alternative for reserve currency, but it won't work. I agree with that. My personal belief, Ray, is that we're not going to have yes, the dollar is going to fade in relative to others, but we will have a sort of a multi-point system where multiple currencies interact in a sort of a pan-currency market. I don't think it's going to be a single currency world. Now, how do you create reserves, et cetera? Well, that's another story. We can cover that another time, but very fascinating story. Sky Logan gives a big heart. Thank you. Ray also says the reshoring is going to take too long to employ the layoffs in a timely manner. Yes. Now, this is where I refer to Peter Zeihan, who is now he's part of the establishment. He lectures to Langley. Let's remember that. But he is also a realist. And he says that the reshoring, the deglobalization movement is going to be very good for North America, but there'll be a period of about 5 years of dislocation and chaos. But then the following 25 years will be a huge boom for the North American continent. Canada, US, and Mexico will do incredibly well. Why? Because we have everything we need. We don't actually need to get stuff from China or anywhere else. I personally like to get mariage tea from France, but I don't have to have it, right? So when it comes down to that, North America is in good shape. Keith Rutten, well, thank you very much for the comment about water. Non-manipulated, non-shorted, Goldilocks, must have to survive, new asset, win-win-win scenario. From your lips to God's ears, Keith, I love that. And Ray says the transition of the dollar out of the reserve status is going to take much longer than expected because it will take a long time to establish the stability alternatives. I couldn't agree more, Ray. When I was in software, we saw that obsolete software, you say, oh, this software is dead. It's toast. I was at a company called Quarterdeck, and they had a memory manager product, which was obsoleted in 1995 because the memory limits on PCs went away. those of you who are old enough to remember, there was a 640K limit on how much memory you could have in a PC on chip on the motherboard. And that was eliminated by Windows 95. I think it went to 16 gigabytes pretty quickly. And so I ran over to the VP sales, Jim Moise, and I said, "Oh my gosh, our memory manager is going to die." He freaked out because it was the number one source of income for Quarterdeck. Well, of course, there's an installed base out there. The thing takes forever to die. Another good friend of mine has a product called Disk Keeper, which keeps on ticking, despite the fact that there's less and less need for it because of solid state storage and so forth. So the point is very, very true, is that it takes a long time for these established processes to change, but it is happening. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then the final piece of geopolitics is that Federal Reserve, which is normally supposed to turn a profit and sends money to the Treasury, actually lost $114 billion last year because it has basically been doing crazy things, in my opinion. Whatever. It's a very political process. But that's a nice marble building, that's for sure. All right, let's take a look. Now, there's a new article in Water Online about decentralized water treatment. Whoa, isn't that new? And Dan Early commented that, yep, we have a way better story. Not only that, but we wrote a story in the same publication 7 years ago. Look, here's the new one, The Future of Decentralized On-Site Water Treatment Systems. And the good news is communities are turning to decentralized solutions. Okay, great. And it gets into it. Fine. And here is my article from September 2016 saying, again, that industrial end users are looking to efficiently treat water at the point of use 7 years ago. So it's good to be right, and we can cackle away, can AJ and I, when we get to the freestyling discussion. All right, Shaun Shoemake, owner and CEO of Plastic Welding Fabrication. You remember that last week? Well, this is the actual tweet, which is January 16th, 2 days ago. But we announced earlier than that a strategic partnership and a letter of intent for potential acquisition. And this is the enclosures that they build. And as you can see here, you saw this last week. I'm not going to get into it. But what I had a chance to go ahead and interview Shaun. And so here he is. Let's take a listen to this informal interview. And it's not edited, so here we go. All right. Well, hello, Shaun Shoemake, and it's a pleasure talking to you. We've just had a nice 45 minutes, well, less than that, but we've gotten to know each other rather fast. I'm super happy with the work that Bill Charneski's done in support of Dan Early and you to, first of all, reinforce the strategic partnership and then pencil in a potential tie-up, in other words, a merger of the companies. That's, of course, an intention, not a commitment for now. But what is clear is that you guys clearly want to work together. And how'd you guys get to know each other, you and Dan Early?
Well, Dan has been a previous customer, an existing customer, and he's been to my shop several times, and he has so much enthusiasm for the industry and so much knowledge that their engineering capabilities, drawings that they sent to my shop for fabrication, are so easy to read, just step by step. So, they're so far ahead of the game already that, they're an easy company to work with. Dan is, again, just his knowledge is so vast. And we have the facility to continue to expand and have just, in fact, purchased an additional facility where we can do the final fabrication and store equipment in our facility, ship out wherever you want them shipped to. I understand that there's some real progress in a standardized product, and we have plenty of room to store it. Very excited about the opportunity to work with Dan and the entire group.
Well, one of my dreams is as we get capitalized, hopefully this NASDAQ transaction occurs. I keep having to tell people that it's not a done deal till it's done, but we think it's on the rails for sure, is that we will have the capital to actually build ahead and actually create some shelf stock. So, I mean, think about it. Most of the water industry is like, well, okay, I got a contract now, I'll build it. What about the customer comes along? Yeah, I need one of these. Say, okay, we have one on the shelf. It's a 5,000 gallon per day unit. It's got the membrane bioreactor going. We can deliver it next week. Will that work? Huh? What?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And repeat product is, you just get better and better and better at it. And you're able to make those commitments, materials in stock, and we can customize too. Some people, they have to fit inside a certain box. We have the equipment to make any size unit, way too big to ship. And it's going to be a lot of fun seeing, 100 units sitting in our yard at some point in time and
Sure.
is ready to finish the final customization, put a control panel on it, roll it on a truck, wherever it goes.
Yes. Well, the enemy of the water business is time because, as you know, the deals take forever to do. I see deals that take 2 years to do. Well, that eats up your margin as staff time, right? And then there's all the construction, implementation, and commissioning. If we can compress that time, then our margins improve, and of course we get a reputation for being, the consulting engineers. They want to deliver and move on too. They want to turn and burn, because they make money. They need more clients and they need to get these projects done. So, and the reps, everyone wins with fast execution. So, I think that's why Dan is so keen on having an integrated manufacturer in the company.
I'm your guy.
Well,
We,
you've been in the business for 2 decades, and I hope that you do another couple of decades with us, and that we have some fun.
yeah,
I'm a little bit older than you, so I'll be in my 90s, but hey, whatever, it's all good.
well, you're looking good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
Shaun, it's such a pleasure meeting you, and let's have some fun. Don't hesitate to call on us, and we'll be moving towards hopefully a tie-up in the near future, and that would be a wonderful thing.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. This is the beauty of what's going on in this company is that more and more I don't have to do everything. Bill Charneski, working closely with Dan Early, pulled together this partnership, and I was able to oversee it. And literally, earlier this week is when I first actually had this real conversation with Shaun. Obviously, as we move towards the definitive agreement to acquire them, we're going to get to know each other a whole lot better, right? So right now, this is a strategic partnership, as enabling Modular Water to do on-site assembly of their complete systems at these locations. Remember, these locations, Shaun's locations just build the shells, right? So stuffing the shells at Plastic Welding and Fabrication in one of their locations is actually going to make things much more efficient. Don't have to truck them over to Progressive Water to complete the assembly. All happens in one place. So that's the strategic partnership, and we're building on that. But then the merger, the acquisition, which, by the way, does not rely on the merger that we're in a definitive agreement for a merger with a NASDAQ company. This acquisition does not depend on that. We have ways to make the acquisition happen anyway. And so we'd be foolish not to. And so even though we are, as I was saying in the video, on the rails with this merger, which is a wonderful thing, we're going to get these acquisitions done anyway, because this gives us the not incremental growth, but quantum growth, which is what we're looking for. And of course, integrated supply chain, the idea that you can have 100 units built ahead of time sitting in his yard. Oh, I think that's sexy. I don't know about you. Okay, let's continue here, because I'm going to keep dwelling on this. This week, 2 days ago, I did a fascinating project. There's a show called Boom America, and the partnership here with the team over there that's doing a number of things. And I'll just show you some pictures, give you an idea of what's going on here. There we go. Kevin Harrington was the star of that. And the idea is kind of like a kinder, gentler Shark Tank, right? Of course, he was the original Shark Tank. What he's doing here is he assembles an A team, and I was invited to be one of the A team experts to coach the startups that showed up there. And so we had that. And then there were video interviews done of all the startups and, of course, the 18 people as well. So, for example, here is right in the middle there is my brother Steven, who's the videographer, longtime videographer for the company, OriginClear, the man with too many cameras. And here he is, coaching me. You'll see the footage in a second. And here I am with Kevin, and very interesting things. He got very excited about what we do, and we're going to be having discussions with his organization to follow up. There they are. Kevin and his co-anchor Tully are working with one of the startups, and this is kind of like they're doing that in-depth thing that's being shot. Okay. And now this is the conference afterwards, where we take turns making commentary, like what we thought and so forth of each startup. And here's me giving my opinion. And here's everybody afterwards. It was a lot of fun, a whole lot of fun. And just behind Kevin is Bob Safale, the guy with the devilish grin, and he is the guy who organized the whole thing. All right. And there was a couple selections from this interview that was done that we're just going to use for various marketing purposes. Gene Tully thinks a woman in a bikini is sexier than industrial water. Are you crazy or what? Industrial water is sexy. All right, here we go. Let's play short clips, and there's more to come. Make mistakes on purpose and learn from them. And the key is to learn fast enough. I'm Riggs Eckelberry. I co-founded a company called OriginClear, which is seeking to disrupt the industrial water industry. It's about as sexy as you can get. Watch what you wish for, because I was a happy guy in tech and creating exits in tech, and it was fun and different. And then I got repaid for my ambition, because I said to these fund guys, hey, I could be a CEO. And they said, sure, but you're going to do algae. And all of a sudden I found myself way out of tech in really a biological space to create fuel, the next fuel. And I was the darling of the media. I was on, Stuart Varney on Fox I'll call you Algae Man. It was great fun. But the fracking revolution came along, boom, all of a sudden no more algae, and we pivoted. And really the thing I've learned over the years, it's been 16 years now, is persist, pivot, learn, restart, because there's always new chances to make it. In our case, we went into water, and what we didn't realize is that nobody cares about water. It's like, open the faucet, flush the toilet, water's taken for granted, except that there's a big problem. And we started realizing around 2016 what we could do, and we've been doing it ever since. A key ingredient of success is how to handle failure, because we're constantly confronted with the opportunity to fail. What I worked out over the years was how to fail creatively. In fact, I even trademarked it as mistake-based marketing. You literally make mistakes on purpose and learn from them. And the key is to learn fast enough. Put it out there. Survey says, learn, adapt, learn, adapt, learn, adapt. So it's very important to have, first of all, your feelers out to know what's working, what's not, and to make your best shot. You know what? I think this is going to work. It's my best shot. Put it out there. Oops, I don't think so. Tweak this, tweak that. And really, I think all good entrepreneurs understand that. And we saw a lot of Amazon entrepreneurs sell their businesses to bigger companies that then failed. Why? Because those bigger companies weren't doing that. They were operating on a recipe. Whereas those entrepreneurs were like, zigzagging. And that's what you got to do. The road to success in business is not a straight line. It's broken field running. So what I hope to bring to these amazing people is a philosophy of be on your toes, be willing to fail, don't get all hung up on it, and learn rapidly, rapid learning, and constantly improve through trial and error. So what I brought this Boom America was this philosophy, and I was able to go, wait a minute, this particular startup is in, going in this direction. What about this other way of looking at it? Let's go outside the box. Let's look at the other way. And I think that it's kind of my religion, really, is intelligent experimentation, right? Fail early, fell off. And there's lots of ways to put it. But another way to put it is, good strategy is a result of tactics that succeed. So you're doing things well, and now you turn it into so it's from ground up versus, sort of mandating it from the top down. Now, it doesn't say you don't want to have goals. You need to have goals, right? And know where you're going. You can't just wander around the wilderness. At every point when we pivoted, we had a clear direction, but how we got there was highly experimental. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. Everything is disruptive technology marketing. You got to understand that I have a very patchwork background. I've been everything. I've been in nonprofit space. I've been a ship captain. I've been a direct marketer. I even, at the age of 40, I took off and ski bummed for a year. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. I thought it was wasted time, but it really was very useful because it gave me a tremendous amount of perspective. Now, I arrived into the .com, and that was the space I fell in love with. All of a sudden, computers are being used for communication, not computing so much. And it opened up all these vistas. I started being involved in launching software companies and products and doing what I do, which is, like only 50% of what you're doing is working. You don't know which 50%, so you do it all. And that's what I did. In 1995, I first had a big product that was a big success worldwide, and it was in software. And I went on from there to more and more of the same, and I just loved it. And so the marketing that I learned was really the disruptive technology marketing, which is now a feature of everything. Everything is disruptive technology marketing. There's no such thing as, well, I make, chariots, so I don't care about. No, everything is touched by the high-tech disruption process. And I became, a real advocate for that. And the interesting thing is when the year 2000 hit and everything blew up and all of a sudden all the crappy .com companies went away, that's when I was able to do the real work, because what survived was real companies. And we started having some good successes, which unfortunately resulted in my being nominated as CEO. Watch what you wish for is the byword, because you really want to, well, it was my passion, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't I'd probably be, way too arrogant if I stayed in Silicon Valley, but I'm kind of glad that I ended up in the green space that later became the blue space. All right, and I've got some commentary here. Ray says, failure looms in everyone's future. The question is how quickly you recognize and replan your future. Always stay immersed in your world. Very true. Goals must make sense day by day, every day. That's absolutely true. You want to do a reality check, like, for example, I'm keenly aware that, as a ship captain, the consequences, for example, of not an improper course, and that every minute you're on that improper course takes you further, and you're going to have to pay in terms of excess fuel and time to get back on that course. And then Ken says, show me a successful person. I'll show you someone who failed repeatedly but kept going. Failed. Deuteronomy says you could do it every 7 years. You know that, right? But that would be too painful. It's actually, I think it's smart that the Old Testament in Deuteronomy has a process for kind of resetting everything, which I think is, but we're not going to get into Old Testament philosophy at this point. All right, we're getting close to the end. I have one more very interesting thing to cover. And the Pursuit channel, Bob Safale, who put together Boom America, also has a show called Surviving Mann, M-A-N-N, which is kind of like a boot camp type show. It has huge distribution. This is what the Pursuit channel looks like. It's all about the outdoors. It's a real sleeper. There's a lot of trending going on there. And this is the Surviving Mann, which is now being syndicated worldwide in international markets. And let's take a look at Bob. was very kind to ask us if we didn't want if we'd like to have a spot. So here's the spot that was created, and I think it looks really freaking great. So let's take a look.
If you want to know how you can build generational wealth for you and your family, but you're investing early before the big money has entered, OriginClear has discovered a $1 trillion asset class that's literally forming right now. Forbes Council has already quoted as saying the world's first trillionaire will be created not in high tech, not in fintech, not electric cars, but in water. But does the world really benefit from a trillionaire? What if we could make this the people's asset and create millions of multimillionaires? This can create decades of income, protect you against inflation, and create an equity event that, if the experts are right, could be life-altering. Now, if that's for you, we hold a weekly Thursday night CEO briefing. You can interact with us, you can ask us questions. We will give you the full download, if you will, on a weekly basis, what the company's up to and what our future plans are. You register for that by going to oc.gold/CEO. I hope to see you there.
So basically, a very simple message to join this briefing, because what we've learned is that this briefing is really valuable from a point of view of, exchanging information with you guys and gals, right? So let's take a look at the next most important part of this, the one you're constantly looking ahead to, the freewheeling discussion. There they are. Oh, we have exactly the same background. We should have a background that is like integrated, like it.
You're not going to tell them the truth that it was a company edict that was sent out that everyone, you must have the matching backgrounds,
or else. Well, I have other backgrounds, including one that incongruously has a mannequin's frame for a. Yes, I do, but now you're going to challenge me on that, I'm sure, right? But I don't.
No, you showed me the Death Star one night.
Here, no,
there you go.
See, there's with the mannequin's frame.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
It's just a coat rack. I think it's just a weird coat rack.
But it's in the shape of a dress. Whatever. Anyway, Nonetheless, we'll go back to standard backgrounds. Well, it's a pretty good show. A lot went on.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of media being created. Wow, the Boom America thing was interesting.
Huge.
Much more to come from that. I did not bumble my appearance. So they'll probably, well, if they ask me back, great, or not, it doesn't matter because they don't get paid for it. But
don't threaten me with not working for free.
Yeah, but the exposure is wonderful.
No, it's great. And look, Kevin Harrington has a name. He's synonymous with, kind of innovative successes. So to be aligned with him and to be asked to be on that panel is super flattering.
Indeed. And some great people on that show, on that panel rather, and that I made some good alliances. Really interesting. So that was great that it got set up, and thank you, AJ. That spot I think was really good, a very high energy spot that was on the outdoor channel. And then of course the Shaun Shoemake relationship, which is building. There's so much happening at the operational level in this company. And for example, even just organizationally, we're implementing, the Modular Water team has a veteran project manager, John Vines, who's implementing a very powerful implementation of SharePoint, which is the Microsoft universe, which of course has task management that's not compatible with anybody else's, but has Planner and has all these tools, real-time spreadsheets and data management. But it allows them to manage their projects in a very integrated way. And we're going to spread that to Progressive Water as well, so that they're all operating on the same platform. And it's going to be really great. But also we are closely tracking. We've put together some really strong revenue forecasting, so that week by week by week by week, we know how well we're doing against forecast. Yep. And the company has really pivoted away from a cash mentality, like, well, we're making so much money, we made so many sales, to a recognized revenue mentality, which is you don't earn the cash until you deliver the milestone. And right. And that has been really a sea change in the company, and everybody's singing from that choir book, and that is what we need to be to be.
Took a couple of years to break that horse, right?
I actually hit the end of my tether in Q4 of last year, where it's like, what is going on with recognized rev?
I was there. I know. I remember. But apparently it finally got through. Look, when the rest of when the investment world is kind of basing their assessment of you around recognized revenue, then it's really, really, really important that you live in the reality. You have to live in the reality that you are. Entrepreneurs, small businesses, private companies, they want cash on hand. Right. That's the measure of success. And it's a security blanket, right? Because I have cash in the bank type thing. But, being able to change that culture internally was quite a feat. These are guys that don't just, pop like that. They have a tendency to, kind of go along with what has worked for them for many, many, many years. So it was,
Of course they do. And cash is important. I mean, cash is king. I'm not saying it's not.
Huge.
But to measure the honesty of your operation,
right?
Generally accepted accounting principle revenue, GAAP revenue, is the measure because it's a blend of sales and delivery. Ray thinks that we're insane to go into the SharePoint world. He's probably right. Here's my philosophy about software platforms. It's about what has been built in it. If somebody has built a good universe in a particular platform, I don't care if it's freaking MySpace. It's fine, right? Because it works. Now, will it become obsolete later down the road? Fine. But we were able to, John Vines was able to stand up something that he'd built at a different company very fast and instantly. The whole quotation world, all that stuff was all, set up, right. And they were just live because, coming from the product manager, I was a product manager, as was AJ. We know the pain of creating something from scratch. You want to adopt things that are working, like, okay, I'll take an Uber, right? Like that, on demand.
Yeah. And it is sometimes it's the fool's errand of many businesses to say, well, no. It's got to be proprietary. I've got to build it. It's got to be my brand. And it's on it, as we speak, it's on their gravestone. So, he did it his way, No,
on his gravestone is, I built my own CRM.
I built
customer relationship management.
Right. So I think our acceleration as as our internal organization, and the way that AJ and I are flowing together is because I went out and I set myself out there as a kind of an end user, and I found things that I felt would rapidly accelerate our immediate, right? And you were buying instead of building, but it was 2 weeks or whatever the time was, and bang, you were up and running. You know what I mean? So there was no way. In fact, we recently, as we brought on a vendor that AJ and I were well on our way to creating what we wanted to as an internal process and how we do public outreach and how we market and all that stuff. And we were definitely dialing in. And we thought, at best case, just through mistake-based, like you said, mistake-based marketing, we were going to get a lot right, maybe half, right? And, getting rid of that other half, the cycle to figure out when you were wrong was too long. It was going to take months and months and months, right? So you brought in this vendor who says, look, I've already done it. I made all those mistakes. You can plug it in right now. And to us, you couldn't, there was no value you could place on that. It was priceless. What in about a couple of days, we'll be in full implementation on that, right, Age?
Yeah, we're actually within the next 2 weeks, we should be in full implementation on that. And there's just so much stuff going on. Riggs, like you mentioned it, and it's funny, like I was messaging you last night or this morning. It's like I admittedly almost feel overwhelmed because we went from having a very narrow, or at least I went from having a very narrow focus on like, how can I help Ken optimize all the things that we're doing within his team to, okay, now I'm VP marketing and we got to do all the things. And it's like, there's a lot of really good things going on. I mean, we've got website redesigns. We've got, all the new stuff going on that Ken was just discussing with the kind of internal funnels and things. We've got everything going on with Water on Demand going to NASDAQ. We got mergers. We got LOIs. We got all kinds of stuff coming
on board.
Yes, we got a PR agency coming on board that we have to really, make sure that we're leveraging to their fullest. And, Ray, appreciate the kudos. But yeah, we're we're moving at a rapid pace right now because there's so much good stuff. I can't keep up with producing content at the speed in which we're doing awesome things. That's a huge testament.
And one of the major problems he has,
Yes.
is he's right on the other side of the wall from me. So I go, "Hey Jerry, I got an idea," and it's boom. But
that's the beauty of being in the office together.
We got to where we are today with Riggs and I doing that by the phone.
Right.
11 o'clock phone. If the phone rang at 11, I'm like, all right, here we go. Right. So, it got a minute. And it was in those moments, look, unfortunately, because we are all doing so many different things, sometimes attention span is strained and you could get that thought. And if you say, all right, I'm going to get to that later. Right. And then you get back into your workflow or you get it back into your routine. What was that? And, maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. But in those moments of inspiration, I think it's vital that you immediately get it down on paper or communicate it to your team. So at least there can be something begun to be generated on it. Maybe it's a dead end, maybe it's not. But like you said, keep test. I remember when I first joined the company in 2018, I threw a bunch of ideas at you. And at first I didn't, we didn't know each other that well. And I said, I have a lot of ideas. And you said, go. And I almost felt bad. I was like, well, I don't know if these are going to work. He goes, you just said, we'll test them. Just test it. And that's been your mantra. I don't think at that point you had said, look, they're probably as a confidence, but they're probably going to fail, but we'll try them anyway. That's probably not how you start out a pep talk. But, test really is. And it's something that now we're communicating with our staff. Look, if you have a good idea, try it. Don't run it by me. Just try it. Come back after it's succeeded. Don't tell me about the ones that failed. Just tell me about the ones that succeeded.
And the really important thing is to remember that there's focus and priorities. AJ's primary client remains Ken's team. Why? Because they're building the water on demand asset, the whole investment, the water like an oil well concept. That is really our strength is retail, working with the retail audience, whether it's accredited or unaccredited. As you know from last week, we are planning to launch another crowdfunding, another Regulation A very soon. And so under OriginClear, not under Water on Demand, but OriginClear. Yep. Why? Because Water on Demand is soon going to be in quiet period. And so what we have here is it's increasingly becoming not just a Swiss watch, but a freaking steam engine. It's got power. It's got horsepower. And the last thing I wanted to do, AJ was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and the thing. Like, okay, you know what? How about you just focus on Ken?
No, it's a great problem to have. And especially when we started talking about especially where it's like, again, we've got a bunch of new messaging coming out again. Make sure you guys are green lighting the invest@originclear.com email and Ken's email and Riggs's email, because we got lots of exciting stuff coming at you soon. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of people every week that express interest in wanting to be a part of this, right? And only a very small percentage of them actually get to do it, because right now we currently only have an offering for accredited investors. Getting the crowdfunding back in and really allowing people to do, again, this has been ever since I've been involved with the company, listening to Riggs and listening to Ken, right? It's like, we want this to be something everyone can be a part of, right? It's not just about the corporate investors and the family offices and the venture capital. It's about giving the everyday investor a chance to really shine and get a piece of the action. And this is that kind of piece that really opens up the floodgate to allow just regular people to be able to really be a part of something special. And that's very, very exciting for me.
The most powerful political campaign organizations are the ones with millions and millions of small donors, right? Because one day your whale, what was the guy? He was the Silverberg, or he was a major player in the GOP. One day I think it was like Marco Rubio came to him for a donation because he was running and he just went, nope. And like, he was dropping out of the race.
The Vegas guy. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Right. So he just went, nope. And guess what? Campaign over. So it's those grassroots organizations that tend. Sheldon Adelson. Thank you, Josh. Sheldon Adelson. Well, I said Silverberg. I don't remember what I said, but Sheldon Adelson. So we have gotten to an extraordinary place with our kind of long time audience of true believers, right? But the idea that this is very, very, very close to being what we want it to be, to not be able to democratize the outcome for a lot of other people would be a damn shame. It would be a shame in my view, right? We would want to kind of raise all boats, if that makes sense.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Create a movement. It's a movement.
Right.
All right. Well, we have arrived at the witching hour. It is 1 minute past 9, and fill out your Zoom survey. We really, really do read them closely. It's very important to us. And, you can always tell us how we can do things better. I'm going to be next week. My wife has a small school, and we take the kids for a ski school vacation for a week. That's where I'll be next week. But I will be doing the briefing from the condo. Woohoo! So I'll see you then. Of course, I'll be doing meetings while trying to avoid hitting trees.
You'll have tinfoil up on the roof to get your Wi-Fi signal up on the mountain.
100%.
I want to read one thing. I have to. So from Ray Laban, a new investor, by the way. Thank you. Everything that I can see is looking wonderful. Keep up the work and adjust as necessary. You guys are doing a great job. Best investment I have made in years. Well, that, sir, is high praise. And I thank you. And he also says, savor the burden. Few people to get to be part of something like this. God knows that's true. Riggs and I talk about that a lot. We go, can you believe it? And the truth is, yeah, but not with a lot of hard work. So, and with that, I will let everyone go home.
I'm going to go ahead, and just because you quoted it, I'm actually going to grab it and put it up on screen.
Yeah, there you go.
Wait. I'm I can't screen save it. Okay. I was going to screen save it. I was like, that is so cool.
So don't worry, we did it. It's in the PowerPoint.
Right, good.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. And that was excellent, Ray. I appreciate the input. And I can tell you that there is something exciting coming very, very soon, but I cannot discuss what it is. But next week, briefing from Northern Montana will be very exciting. See you then. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care, everybody.